Hi, my name is Jim Byrne, Principal Systems Engineer for DataPivot Technologies, and today I'd like to go over the DataPivot Appliance with you. I've been in the backup and recovery business now for over 20 years, and I know how to build a backup appliance, and I worked over at Commvault for quite a while, and one of the troubles I had is I would work with vendors, and some of the solutions they would put in just weren't efficient, and not only were they didn't work that well, they were just kind of overkill and just doing things the hard way. So what we did was, when I came over to DataPivot, we decided we were going to build an appliance. And to give you some background, the typical environment that I see people set up, they would set up a server, and it would have a SAN connected to it, and they would have some sort of storage with SSD and hard disks in there. And the SSD was for the dedupe database, and the hard disks were for the backup storage. Now, one of the things is when you put SSD on a SAN, you need to do a little common sense thinking and think about what's the I/O path to get to those SSDs. If you think about it, starting at the CPU inside of that server, we have to go from the CPU through the motherboard, through the PCI bus to the HBA card. Then from the HBA card out to a SAN port, we have to go through the switch, out the other SAN port, back into the storage array, go through the controller, and then we have to go out the back, go down to the disk shelves, and finally get to the SSDs. So the performance you get, the IOPS, you'll see all the stuff from the vendor saying it's so fantastic, but the physics behind it, nothing beats having it on-prem, right on the board. So when we have our DataPivot appliances, those SSDs are plugged right into the PCI bus. So we'll get easily 700,000 IOPS, no sweat. So the bottlenecks I used to see sometimes are people's DDB wouldn't perform, and if deduplication is not performing, you're kind of screwed. You're not going to get good performance. So by doing that has improved the performance in our appliances fantastic. Now the other problem with this type of environment that I've seen people do, now if you put storage on the back end, let's say you stick the SSDs in here, fantastic. But if you put your hard disks here and you're sharing it in your environment, I've seen people do this. It's kind of silly. So I did a lot of contracting, and I've been at places where we would have a big SAN outage, and they'd say, hey, can you do some restores for me? No, I can't. Guess put my backup storage in here. So you don't want that. You want this thing to be self-contained. You want it to be basically by itself, so it's ready for you to do your restores. So to just go through our thinking and how we've built this, first of all, it's purpose-built. We built this to do backup and restore. That's its thing. So it has onboard SSD, as I said, 700,000 IOPS. We have onboard hard drives. We have configurations anywhere from 24 terabytes for small little robo all the way up to 320 terabytes, which is fairly large. And this is kind of something people don't think about. You can use your own standard build. And what I mean by that, you can use your Windows operating system or Linux operating system, whatever you like, and that operating system inside of your environment, you've tuned it over the years for your compliance and security officers to be happy about it. So when you bring our appliances, we'll use your operating system. You've got that covered. Then you don't have to mess around, because I've sold appliances before, and you have to go with all this rigmarole to make sure it's certified and all that. It's a headache. So when you bring our appliance in, if somebody asks what the OS you're using, oh, we're using our standard build. All set. The other thing is, I know I mentioned this before, it's all self-contained. This appliance is only to you. So it's sitting on your shelf. It only takes up 2 user space, extremely dense. Nothing else is on it, just for backup and recovery. So it's there when you need it. Now, these appliances, we have a lot of them out in the field. And if you've gone through and built your own servers before, you always go through and say, I wonder if I'm picking the right part. Is this going to work? How reliable it is? So what's nice is we have known builds we've been using for over 5 years now. They're rock solid. It's all enterprise hardware. They go. So there's no worries about it. When you put this thing on the shelf, you can just let it run. And we also have support that comes with it for 3 years. So if any hard drives fail or anything like that, somebody will come on site and replace the drives for you. And as I said before, this is a storage of last resort, and you really want something purpose-built and that is enterprise worthy to hold your backups, because I've seen people, they want to be a hero and save money, And it doesn't work out. The day comes when you go to do restores. What a lot of people don't understand about deduplication appliances, I don't care what vendor it is, you do deduplication up front, and on the back end, when you're backing up going in, the hard drives don't do that much. But when you go to do a restore, you're fully hydrating everything, so the restore is quite substantial. You watch those drives go; they work hard. So if you have something that's older, and it might be working fine for years, and then when the day comes and you got to restore the whole data center, it could die. So you don't want to be using old junk. So going through, let me just give you a quick overview of the appliance itself. In the front, there's nothing really there. You're just going to see 12 hard drives go across the front, and we have various sizes of hard drives or configurations to get our 24 to 320 terabytes. Now in the back, kind of tells the story a little better. We have SSDs in the back. Depending on what server we do, most of them have just 2, but there's some builds we can have up to 4 in the back. There's an IPMI port on this thing, so you can get in it, and if there's any trouble with it, you can get in there and see what's going on. We also use the IPMI. When we sell this to you, we sell you with advanced support. So we'll be on the phone with you setting this thing up. It doesn't take that long, but if you've worked in IT for a while, a mistake made in the beginning is really hard to correct. So you want to get it right the first time. So we'll be on the phone there with you, setting up all the drives, partitioning them, and then we'll also help you with installing the OS and formatting everything so that it's set up optimally and this thing really goes well. Now the network connections on here, there's an onboard network card with these. It has 2 1 gig connections, and then there are 2 10 gig connections. The regular, it can be SFP plus, or you could have gig or the copper Ethernet if that's what you want. And then there are also PCI slots. Typically I'll put in 2 25 gig SFP 28s. That's what a lot of people seem to like these days. And what's nice is I'll put a connection here and I'll put one here, so I have going across 2 controllers for high availability. And then I have 2 more connections there that have 16 gigabit fiber channel, and that's for if you want to hook up a tape drive. And you don't need a lot of tape drive. People tend to use tape today just for like long term. They're not backing up with it. They're just making copies with it. So you can basically direct connect this right to a tape library, so you don't need a SAN switch. It'll save you a little money on ports, and you get very good speed. Typically you can get, with an LTO9 drive today, you get 2 terabytes an hour per drive. So you can be pumping at 4 terabytes an hour, and you don't have to go crazy fast, because a lot of these are just month ends and year end backups, so these let them go. The main data is on the disks. That's your 30 to 60 day. You keep that on the disk. So that's the DataPivot appliance overall. It's basically just made to be a backup appliance, and sometimes people don't understand why it's so much less expensive. When you compute this out, you'll see it's very low cost per terabyte. And the reason is that a lot of times when you get storage, nothing against NetApp or any of those guys, there's a lot of features in there you're not going to use. Like, for example, replication, you don't need it because Commvault will do the replication. Deduplication, don't need it. Commvault will do that. So there's all these things in there. They say they don't cost anything. Yes, they do. Things don't just invent themselves for free. So that's why that's expensive. So that's why having an appliance that's tuned just for backups to do what it does, it performs very well and has a low cost per terabyte. So if you'd like to have a chat with us sometime about your backup needs, and we can help you out with Commvault, and just go through how we can put one of these in your environment to help improve how fast your backups go, performance, reliability, and that kind of thing. Feel free to contact us. You can reach us at contact@datapivottech.com. We'd love to talk to you about the appliance, talk to you about your environment. I'm sure we can help you out. All right, thank you. Thank you for your time.